I got so overwhelmed with so many clients asking me to help them. I was making so much money, but I was working like 70 hours a week and I was
Mhm,
totally burnt out. So I was going on
mhm.
holiday and being on holiday, away, vacation, and I'm sat on my laptop and it's like, what am I doing here? I'm on holiday and I'm working for 5 hours of the 8, still working.
Welcome to Marketing by Design, where you and I learned from our favorite founders and marketers on how they built their success and told their stories by design. I am your host, Andy Milligan. Let's get started. That was the one and only Chris Norton, the founder and principal of Prohibition PR. And I gotta tell you guys, Chris and I connected about a year ago, and just his insights from this conversation and just the rapport that we built really quickly. If you guys are watching this on the video, you're gonna see Chris is someone that is naturally very charismatic. He smiles a lot. He goes very deep very quickly, as I've seen in my career, what some of the best founders do. But Chris is the founder of Prohibition PR, which is a 28-person PR agency across the pond. They're one of the biggest PR agencies in the UK. And I didn't actually know this upon connecting with him. Our friend Frank Agan, who is a mutual of ours that lives very close here in Dublin, Ohio, actually introduced us. But Chris is the founder and managing director of Prohibition PR. They've been named Agency of the Year multiple times, based in Leeds. And I'm just a huge fan of the way Chris thinks. There's just something natural about people like me, people like Chris, who just have a lot coming across their plate. And the true mark of success is saying yes to the right thing. Chris also has an awesome podcast called Embracing Marketing Mistakes, where each week him and his team dive into an hilarious marketing mistake that has happened around the world. And this is a really cool premise and twist on what a podcast is. Hearing the insights that Chris has around building and scaling his agency up to 28 people with experience in a ton of different verticals is very refreshing. Without further ado, this is entry 125 of Marketing by Design. We're going to jump straight on in. But before we do, I want to invite you to download a free resource that I have. It's called the Highest Converting Landing Pages and B2B Checklist. I have a Notion swipe file where I go in and I take full page screenshots of some of the highest converting sections and designs that we use in our own clients' sites. This is a private little resource of the proven designs that have worked best for our agency, and I want to share that with you. So that'll be in the first link below, as will Chris's information, as will Prohibition PR, the Marketing Mistakes podcast. That'll all be linked below. But special thank you, Chris Norton, for coming on the podcast today. Please welcome to Marketing by Design, the one and only Chris Norton.
So, yeah, basically I decided to go freelance many, many years ago, about 14, 15 years ago, maybe 16 years ago, I went freelance. So my career is, I did my A-levels or whatever, and then I went to do public relations at university. And the reason why I did public relations at university was because my course tutor at 17, in fact, my son's the same age right now, and we're talking to him about what he should choose at uni. And I said, oh, I really like marketing, to my course tutor. And she said, have you ever thought about doing public relations? And I said, what's that? And they said, oh, basically PR is getting stuff in the media and getting, media coverage and clients on TV. Oh, that sounds quite glamorous. And she said, and the PR degree is 95% female. I went, okay. I was a single man at that time, so I signed up to do public relations. And I did it for 3 years and did a sandwich year. And then Sandwich year on a nuclear power station. I ran a magazine. Well, in my year in sandwich role, I was basically on a nuclear power station in a HR team doing the internal comms on a nuclear power station, like Homer Simpson. So quite interesting. And then I finished that, went back for my final year at uni, did my final year, and then got my first job in PR, which was in an agency in London called Harvard PR. An agency that probably a lot of people in America would recognize more than UK. And there was about 240, I think, they said, applicants for 8 jobs on the day. And luckily I got the job because I had experience in PR, which was really weird at the time. Not many people. There was only one PR degree in the UK, technically two, one in Bournemouth, which is right at the bottom, the sunny bit of the UK. And so, I they didn't have they had people from Oxford, Cambridge, like much more clever than I ever was. But they were going into the interview, and the guy was going, "Do you know what PR is?" And they were going, "Yeah, it's," and making it up on the spot. Whereas I went, "Yeah, sure. Here's my portfolio. This is what I've done for the nuclear power station. This is how we've done. This is," so I got the job. Worked in London for about 4 years. And I worked in tech PR, then healthcare PR, and then went travelling with my now wife, but my girlfriend at the time. And we came back, got a job up in the north of the UK. So I'm from a place called Leeds. If anyone into soccer, they might know Leeds United, but that's about 2.5, 3 hours away from London on the train. Okay, so about 4 hours in the car. I don't know how that relates to the US and where you are, but what's about 4 hours in the car from where you are, Andy?
Oh man, so about 4 hours from Columbus. That would probably be you'd be getting out of the state for sure. So if you head down south, you're probably headed more towards probably southern Kentucky. Maybe if you're really booking it, you can probably get more central. Um, but yeah, you're definitely hitting some warmer weather if you're going down south
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
so it's a quite a way. I know a lot of Americans think of the UK as mainly London, and it is, to be honest.
Hmm.
What amazes me about the UK compared to the US is the state. I went to New York, and my mate who lived there told me that the state of New York was bigger than England. Was bigger than England,
Yeah.
and I could
Yep.
not get my head around that. But no, I don't know the Queen. Anyway, so I moved to the UK, back to Leeds, and then worked in an agency for about 4 or 5 years, different couple of agencies, two or three. And I set up on my own freelance. So freelance working for clients, and I was making some money because this was the birth of, it was the first birth of social media, and I was blogging. So I had a blog that was top 5 in marketing blogs in the UK. I was writing stuff, and it was being published in PR Week verbatim, which was a very weird scenario, writing articles and getting them published in your trade title. The people in London that I'd worked with couldn't get their head around it, but I was seeing the birth of social media, blogging, WordPress, MySpace at the time, and friends feed, and there was all sorts of, and then obviously the Facebook turned up. Clients just kept asking, "Oh, we want you to do a blog, or we want you to do this." Yeah, and then I eventually got a job. So I basically worked for a couple of agencies, set up freelance on my own, and I got so overwhelmed with so many clients asking me to help them that it was just I needed to. Well, I was making so much money, but I was working like 70 hours a week, and I was
Hmm.
totally burnt out. So I was going on
Hmm.
holiday and being on holiday away, vacation, and I'm sat on my laptop, and it's like, what am I doing here? I'm on holiday, and I'm working for 5 hours of the 8, still working. So I got back and thought, right, I'm going to hire somebody, and that was quite a weird scenario. Hiring your first member of staff in my garage in the my back garden. We had a garage, and we had to like sit opposite each other, which was a bit weird.
Hmm.
Started the agency, and yeah, that was 14 years ago. And then we looked for an office, and there was an office near where I live, but a marketing agency in Leeds offered me a free spot if I would do their PR for them and some of their clients. So I
Hmm.
said, "Yep," and we moved into, and then the rest is history. Like, yeah, we won Agency of the Year probably multiple times. Just doing cool stuff. Because at the time there was nobody else doing social media campaigns when we first started doing them. There was only
Hmm.
one or two agencies in the UK when I was doing it, so it was in quite a lot of demand. Whereas now, like, everybody does social media, every PR agency. So I was actually training PR agencies to do social media at the time, like getting paid to go in and consult with their teams. Feels very similar to AI right now, doesn't it? That's
Hmm.
exactly the same sort of thing. Like, because I'm quite a geek when it comes to tech, so I'm fully immersed in AI at the moment and using that for workflows and everything that I do, including podcasting. So, yeah, so 14 years later, there's 28 of us. We're in the centre of Leeds on the river. And we work for clients, everyone from Barber. We've worked for the Royal Shakespeare Company, quite cool. But we work for more. We do work for a lot of universities in the UK. We work for a lot of food and drink brands, delivering like cool campaigns that get people talking. But my real passion is sort of crisis stuff. I love crisis management, and helping clients out of problems. Like if they get in a problem, because who are you going to call? It's not Ghostbusters. It's
Mm-hmm.
usually so a PR expert to get you out of the, and then we're not usually valued. It's like, oh, we're part of the marketing mix.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe design's similar. You're only called upon at a certain point. But I tell you what, when a crisis breaks, that's when we suddenly end up in the C-suite, sat with the CEO or the MD, right at the table, saying, "What do you need to
Yeah.
do?" And that's when you feel like you're most valued. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You probably build a pretty close bond with people that can lean on you in those times. I think that could be a big differentiator, and I mean that's a lot of what I pulled from your website copy is that you take on that role a lot, and you kind of you don't niche down into that, but it's a big part of the value you guys offer. And what I learned kind of as I talked to a couple people now, you're one of them from across the pond. I think the I love saying that, by the way, across the pond. Expect to hear that a few times. But in the United
Big
States,
pond.
PR, yeah, yeah, PR isn't as commonplace as a term. It kind of all gets lumped under this like aggregate marketing. Um, and I think it's a lot more commonplace. And I think it's kind of the consumption habits of what's the norms in other countries. Because I think mainstream media looks a little bit different. And maybe in other places as it does here in the U.S. And the U.S. In the states there's a huge of just pushback and general distrust of anything media and public relations related. So it kind of is almost like a term that you want to avoid. And obviously, marketing has its own connotations in and of itself, but here it kind of always gets looped in. So when we think about like all the services that Prohibition offers, where do you talk about crisis management, talk about that kind of being where you thrive as a founder, as a business owner. Where do you dip your buckets in terms of the allocations of each one? Because if I look at the site, I see creative services, I see crisis management, I see PR, I see all these things. Where did it come time to layer that stuff on? And what does that look like for the business currently?
Great question. And actually, we're repropositioning at the moment because we're
Hmm.
refocusing the business because
Yeah.
what we're looking at is things that give us energy. Because ultimately, I've been doing this 14 years and running an agency of 20, 30, well, 25, 30 people. And, it's, we're only a small business, but it's a lot of responsibility and clients. If you've got demanding clients that want high-end work all the time, it can be quite exhausting.
Hmm.
Um, and the typical way of a PR agency or in the UK is that they will add services on. Oh, we do this, we do that, we
Hmm.
do that. In actual fact, we're winding all that right back at the moment. So we're repropositioning what we do offer, the solutions that we've got. You can ask me what they are, but I can't tell you yet because we're currently working on them right now with a
Hmm.
specialist in this sector to make sure that we attract the right type of client and
Hmm.
repel the ones that we don't want to work for anymore.
Hmm.
Because ultimately, we don't struggle for work because, like, in terms of SEO and things like that, and actual now, what do you call SEO for AI? We still,
Yeah.
if you put in who are the best PR agency in Leeds, in ChatGPT, it comes out as us. So, which is amazing. I don't know how we've done that, but that's what it says at the moment. And we're pretty much top of Google, we're top of Bing, we're top of, so we get people asking us for work all the time, and actually our thing is trying to turn work away because I can't recruit. I don't want to. We don't want to scale too big and too fast, and all those things that everyone
Hmm.
says. You want to 10x your business, scale, and all
Yeah.
these things. Actually, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to scale it with good people, clients that value what you've got to say, like who
Hmm.
really trust you, and not people that are just going to pay you and then you're like the whipping boys.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of services, to break it down though, great question because we were just PR and social, so PR is probably 60% of the job, socials sort of 30%, and then I'd say 20% is 30%. I don't know if those maths add up. Um, is
Yeah.
video and
Small
creative.
part.
It's video and
Mhm.
creative. So we've got we did have two designers. We've got one designer. We're actually recruiting for a motion graphics designer at the moment, and we do loads of animation. We do quite a lot of video, which I know. I'm imagining in design is we don't do web design. We can do logo stuff and things like that. But that's not really. I mean, although I did my dissertation on corporate identity, that was what I at uni. That's what I actually wrote about.
Nice.
But I'm not like if you ask me to pull together a beautiful deck for you, Andy, it will look awful. I know what looks good, but I can't make it look good. I've done graphic
Yeah.
comms for graphic communication, but I can't make it look good. So it's about being clear, and that's what we're trying. We're trying to make our website and our proposition clearer to the right sorts of clients. Because yeah, you want to be working for nice people who value what you've got to say, don't you?
Yeah, it's such a balance, dude. Like you there's so much energy and I can even hear it kind of as you told the Chris Norton Genesis story was you start and you find the success. People are actually valuing what you do and you're getting a lot of clients, you're getting a lot of work and it's so energizing, rewarding, fulfilling, to feel like you're adding value. But you reach this point where you're just like spread super thin
Mm.
and it's so top of mind for me because you start to say yes to things that you've either never done before or you are learning on the job. I think there's a ton of value in that, but I think the most effective version of that is when you are going like 1% outside of what your core skill set is and you're kind of ideating on what you're already good at. And I just went through the whole like pairing niching down exercise too, as I was like, yes, freelancer, anything for anyone. And it comes to a point too where and I think it starts with good intentions. It starts kind of and it depends too. Some people start in a position of lack, so they need to say yes to everything. And some people just are into it with worse intentions, like they want money. And I think
Yeah.
like as you sort of scale and grow a business, it's just like the subtle rounding of the plane of what do I do best? Who does that person look like? And then not cutting off, but just being okay with saying no is such a hard thing to do. Because Chris, like I started from a layoff 2 years ago, and I think our identity kind of lags behind reality in terms of like where we are socially status wise. But I just remember having that visceral reaction of like I need clients, I need work. And that can when you start from that position of lack, sometimes it can kind of set you on the wrong path
Well,
because go ahead.
yeah, when you're free, that's kind of like a freelance mentality because, like, like
Yeah.
where you're chasing the next pay packet. So I was always told if you want to be successful in working for yourself, have 3 months' salary in the bank so you can
Hmm.
then pick and choose what you're going to do. But the reality of working as a freelancer or without a team is that which is I'm really driven, so like I end up doing loads and loads of things and keeping busy, and even when I'm not busy I'm doing social media and I'm doing videos and and it's like,
Hmm.
whoa, what are you trying to do?
Hmm.
Focus I think is often and that's just something I've learned with getting older, really. And saying no is definitely a skill. To pick, you have to go with your gut, Andy. You'll know with your gut, but you have to
Hmm.
learn it yourself. That is something that
Yeah.
AI might not learn. If AI can start being like the gut, that would be an absolute game changer. Like by giving you a gut feel on people emailing you that have got you a brief that's just going to be. I had one. So for instance, I had one yesterday, right? And it came in, and I don't know if I've still got it in my inbox, but the general gist of it was, Chris, this is the perfect opportunity for you.
Hmm.
I need to talk to you at
Whoa.
5 p.m. today. This is a once in a lifetime offer. And I immediately went, yeah, I'm not interested. And then
Yeah.
he wanted to meet me face to face to tell me about and it just rang a certain few alarm bells. I thought this is going to be, get your team together for 5 p.m. Like no concept of how busy somebody else is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just drop everything. Get everybody in the boardroom, and this guy's going to come and present to us. Anyway, we
Yeah.
didn't. I politely declined it 3 times when he kept saying, "Why not?"
Man.
You need to spot those people because otherwise they will take your time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's like it's so hard. And we could go on, dude. We could talk forever about managing expectations, navigating client relationships, stuff like that. There's so much that goes into that, and it's one of those things that you don't. you can only feel having gone through it and done it wrong. Like you truly can't read that lesson in a book because when the opportunities come, it's like you said, there's no AI gut checker out there, and you sort of have to drink the medicine for yourself, both on the good and bad side, because there's so many situations that come to mind for me where that's just been it's been the case. I think it's especially common too, dude, in designers and
Yeah.
freelancers because there's a lot of starving artists out there and a lot of people that maybe aren't innovating towards even things like AI and all that, and there's a lot of worry. So maybe saying yes is a result of them maybe not having the faith in themselves to be able to do their own job in the future because they don't know if it's going to be there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, designers, if we are talking about design, like, so because I'm recruiting for a motion graphics designer, it's going out, I think, today or tomorrow, the advert. But the
mhm,
last designer we advertise for, so if I advertise for a PR professional, we probably get 25, 30 applicants, right, per job. And then the higher up, the less, because obviously it's harder to find them.
yeah,
For design,
design you get a lot. Yeah.
198 I got in 3 days last time. I went to turn it
Mm,
off. It was ridiculous.
yep.
It was too many. And then now this time round, we've put like things filter questions and things like that. Clever
Mhm.
things to try and stop us being inundated with
Yep.
applicants, because you can't. You want to go through individuals' stuff, but it's time, isn't it? You haven't got. We need the AI gut checker again.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, if I had any advice for hiring designers, really look beyond the portfolio. Like, obviously check it in terms of, okay, this is what you've done before because that's essential. But like in my experience working with designers, outsourcing projects, the people that have the conversational element, they can say like, this is why I did this. And even if they reach out outside of just the application, there's a very like I said, it's design is weird because you'll get a ton of applicants, right? Because there's so many of them out there, but so few actually go above and beyond and say like, this is why I'm actually a good fit for this job. Because there's so few jobs that actually allow for creative freedom and input, and it comes from this mindset that design a lot of designers have, and it's that they are task takers. They're like, okay, this is brief, this is job. I'm the person that's supposed to get it from A to Z. And they don't view like their work, they don't view themselves as solving the problem that the design brief generates. They just view it as this is the output because it is very visual. It's very tangible. So it's like, oh, I can make that happen. And they get too fixed on making like the physical thing happen rather than like solving the marketing, the communications problem behind it. So like really getting someone that can understand and say like, this is why this piece of creative, this motion, this like small part of what I do is actually going to help this campaign or drive the KPI we're looking for. That's what you want to be that's what you want to be looking for because there's people
Yeah,
that will go above and beyond and do that.
I mean, have you used Sora in ChatGPT and things like
I've
that? Have you used them?
I've dabbled. I've dabbled. Yeah.
I mean, they were rubbish not a year ago, and now they're like phenomenal. You give them a picture of you, like if you took a photo of yourself now and then said, "Put me in a situation getting chased by a polar bear, with a Coca-Cola bottle in my hand," and it just does it all. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is crazy because, like, in the world of marketing, all the marketers listening to this, the days of mocking stuff up, like, you get we'd brief often, we'd come up with like a campaign theme. So I don't know, we'd come up with a campaign theme, and then we'd get an illustrator and we'd say, right, can you illustrate that? I mean,
Hmm.
I can understand why people would be worried, like the fact that it can just do that in 30 seconds with a decent brief.
Yep.
But I'd still think that the human side of it is great for other things. So it's looking at what design and marketing and things where humans, and this goes back to what you were saying about trust. So you said before that people don't trust the media in America. It's quite interesting. I mean, I don't know the intricacies of the American media. That I know that we've got Fox and CNBC and all those, and
Hmm.
you've got a president that's an interesting character, and we've got
To
the
say the
BBC.
least. Yeah.
we've got the BBC, so it's not to go political, like the BBC is supposed to be impartial, but is any media impartial? But they like to try and have both sides of the argument all the time. In actual fact, it's quite boring sometimes because you have to hear
Hmm.
both sides of the argument on our TV, on our news, and then the sales site, the sort of news cycle's 24 hours. But with trust, what you were saying about trust, same in the UK, mate. People don't trust anything anymore. But when we've done our social media sort of thought leadership stuff, Gen Z trust the thoughts of me and you. If they're listening to
Hmm.
this podcast, they'll
Yes.
trust what we're saying over the media.
100%. Yeah, dude.
Joe
There was
Rogan,
literally.
you know what I mean?
Yes, I was just about to say. Yeah, they had the election cycle here, and it's like it was just a huge case study in like how this stuff is changing, like how people are actually consuming media, and like what really like shift my mind in terms of what marketing is. Because, dude, like the general perception of like my parents, my grandparents versus like everyone I talk to that's my age is like so vastly different. And there's so many more people over here. And just think like in the future, there's so many people over here that are listening to Rogan talk about beef jerky and CrossFit,
Aliens.
then yeah, to make up the future, and they trust that guy so much more because I don't know, Crystal, when you listen to someone for 30
Mm,
minutes to an hour, the level of trust that you have
yeah.
from them versus like a cut up news segment of like 30 to 60 seconds, there's so much more trust to be earned in like a long form medium like that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the reason why he's so successful is from when we were talking before this about consistency. He's published every
Hmm.
day, and he does
Yeah.
3-hour episodes. But also, like, he is willing to talk to fascinating people, and his knowledge, like for a guy that is an MMA fighting comedian, like
Hmm.
he's so intelligent, and he's had Trump on, and he and Elon on several times, and everyone his arguments whether he's right or left or well, mainly right. um
Yeah.
that's irrelevant. Like he sort of keeps it. He tries to talk about a subject matter that's interesting to everyone, or just stuff.
Hmm.
What's amazing is he's making money out of running a show that is stuff that he's just into. Like he's just
Yes.
talking to it. He wants to talk about dinosaurs being recreated by those people that made the direwolves. So he goes all
Yeah.
in on it and talks to the biologists. I'm like, this is fascinating. It's not something I'd normally watch, but it's better than watching the dross that you get on TV sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yes, dude. If anyone's successful, it's that dude. Like, and I watched an audience like a marketing breakdown on him, and he's so appealing to everybody because he'll talk to people in all these different niches to where you can almost say like, oh, that sounds interesting, and he's so neutral. He's literally just
Mm.
the curious person. He's like ourselves who are having a conversation with this person, right? But then you have these super niche areas like biohacking, fitness, uh like hunting, like all these niche areas that he talks about a lot and you hear him nerd out on. For those people, he's like God. So he has like his loyal followers and he has like this mass appeal of everyone. He's done it right. And I don't think there's any way around that other than the
Time.
thousands of hours, all the reps, the consistency, like you said, of showing up over and over. So it's just fascinating to me.
You'll get there, mate. You'll get there. You just need to talk
Yeah,
about aliens and undercover operations in the
I
government, and
know.
they'll be all over your marketing pod.
I know. I need to move to Austin and start swinging kettlebells and talking UFC and doing all that stuff. But anyway, back to Chris, back to you.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah, yeah,
important. Um, talk about. I want to spend sort of as we land the plane here because I'm mindful of your time. But
yeah,
when we
yeah.
talk about PR, what are the deliverables from that brief? Does that look like and we can talk not just PR, but from your agency in particular, what are the deliverable outcomes? So I go to Chris's website, I want to think, oh, I heard Chris on a podcast. He looks like he knows his stuff media wise. I want to get on a phone call with him. What does that dialogue look like, and how do you sort of take people where they are at if they're good fits to phase one and phase two and three and beyond?
Well, first thing, the first question we always ask is, have you got a brief of what you're trying to do? And they'll say yes or no. If they say no, I haven't got a brief, we'll usually say, okay, come back when you've got one. because people without a brief aren't committed and don't. That's one of my first sort of. You wouldn't want to. You don't want to speak to. You can waste ages talking to. Everybody wants to tell you about an idea they've got that they think is going to be the next big thing, and everybody wants a campaign that's going to get people talking on social media. Everybody wants a campaign that's going to get them in broadcast media or in the national newspapers, or in your case, in the American national newspapers and the state newspapers. Online. So the first thing to do is say, have you got a brief? And then if they haven't got a brief, we've usually got a link that they can fill in, and it takes it basically does a reverse brief from what they've said. It'll ask them a load of questions. They fill it in, tell us the story. And from that, we have a brief, and then we come back and say, is this what you want? And they say, yeah. In terms of outputs, it depends on what it is. If it's a PR campaign, it'll be, who are your audience? What do you want to make them do? So how do you want to affect that audience? What is it that your product or whatever you're wanting to publicize, what is it you want to do? So in the example we've just been talking about in Joe Rogan, Trump came on to the Joe Rogan show to talk about what he was doing and his ethos for 3 hours because he wanted votes. He wanted you to vote for him. That's the brief. That was the brief. For us, it'd be like, what do you want to do? How do you want to change it? And then what's your budget? Obviously, what sort of budget? Because if you haven't got a budget, again, we won't work for you. Like, there's no point in coming. It's like somebody saying, "Oh, I want a car." Great. What sort of car do you want? Well, I want a car that goes. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
The first thing they would say is, okay, what's your? Oh, I want to go on holiday. Great. What's your budget? It's the same thing. You need to know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, to stop anyone wasting their time. So then we'll take the brief and the budget, and then we'd go off. My team would go off, look at the problem. We then do a load of insight into the audience and the stakeholders in that audience. We'll look at what makes them tick, and what is there something on social media or somewhere where people are talking about from this audience that we can tap into? Is there some sort of key bit of insight that we can tap into? And then we'll create a campaign that taps into that insight, and then you create a campaign that everybody talks about. So I can give you an example. So, for instance, do you have the brand Interflora in America? You do, don't you?
It does not sound familiar. I do imagine they're here though. So tell me about it.
So Interflora is the world's biggest flower brand. So they came to us and they wanted to do some. They basically said, we want to be talked about on Mother's Day. Currently, we're just talked about in terms of deliveries. We want to be talked about on Mother's Day. So we said, okay. So what we did was we got the team together and we said, what can we do here? Let's go and get the insight on mothers. What are mothers talking about? This is about 5, 6, 7 years ago. What are mothers talking about? Okay, mothers in the UK, what they're talking about. So we did a load of social media listening. We did a load of, we looked at various reports and things, looked at the social listening, and we found that mums were talking about, I work really hard looking after my child. I look after the home. I'm bringing him up, and I get no sort of validation or any credit for the great work that I do for my kids. And then as we saw other people, mums saying, yeah, we should be paid for it. And it was like a bit of a conversation that we tapped into. So we thought, okay, why don't we make being a mum a job? How much would she get paid? So we broke down the different jobs that she did. And then we compared it with employment average wage data. So we looked at, how long does she take feeding? So chef. How long does she take teaching? Teacher. How long does she housemaid? All the great jobs that mums do. And we broke it down, and it turned out that a mum should earn £172,000 a year. So then we created the mum salary, which was £172,000 a year, and then we created a calculator on like a digital calculator where mums could move the dials of how much time they spent doing each of the tasks, and then it would generate them their certificate for how much they should be paid. And then we did them on top of that as a bit of a PR stunt from the PR. We then did a job advert in the Times newspaper. Job. £172,000 a year, no experience needed, no holidays, and it was apply here. Hardest job. We bought a URL, hardest job in the world.co.uk, and then when you clicked on it, it took you to this page, and it was all about the campaign and how that mums should be given more credibility, and it just went everywhere. So that's an example of where you use insight to create something to get. And what that show, that sort of campaign ended up on the biggest radio stations in the UK, TV, all the nationals, all the regionals. It was just everywhere. People were talking about it in different ways and how mums should be given more credibility. It became like a, because we tapped into that insight of what culturally people were saying. That's the key for me in PR and social, that you tap into something that's culturally, part of the narrative and create your own take on it.
Dude, that's such a good story, man. Like I think I think when you tell that, that's like one of the reasons why Chris started, is to have that that moment where it all kind of comes to fruition like that. And I think and even as you unpack that, that's so much of what we do is, how do you create something for other people that makes them passionate about it, that makes them want to share it on their own. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. He's actually from Columbus too. He's from like 30 minutes away. I'm gonna get him on the podcast one day. One day. But he has this thing where it's like, how can you create something so good, whether it's he used the example of a book or an idea or philosophy, like a piece of content, a design, a marketing collateral, whatever, that's so good that people truly have a before and after moment from their experience with it. And I think of something like that, to where you tie everything that a mother does to something like a salary. You have that like philosophical approach of like contrast, because mothers aren't paid, and that's something that immediately draws like, oh, if I could quantify this. But it's also a call to arms, right, for moms to say like, look, this is all the stuff that we actually do. And that's like free media right there if they reshare something like that, because it makes them look good, and yeah, I really love that example. And I don't know if have you ever heard of a Rory Sutherland?
Oh, Rory. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to get him on the show.
Yeah,
He's my ultimate person I want to get on my podcast.
really, yeah, dude, he's got some cult fans, dude. You guys sound the same. Similar. I know you have like a different,
Well,
but
I wish, if Rory Sutherland's listening to this, I'd love to get him on the show, because our podcast, Embracing Marketing Mistakes, I'd love to hear what his biggest mistakes are, because I hear his take on life, like everything from McDonald's to the car. I'd love to get into his mistakes, because I bet he's got a few, and I bet he's completely candid. Apparently, you can't get a word in edgeways though if you interview him, because he can just talk. He's got so many stories, and he's just so intelligent, which is great. I mean, the fact that you know him from the US is amazing, because he's blown up on TikTok. He's massive on TikTok now.
Yeah, well, he's been doing podcasts. That's what we're talking about. He's gone on like mainstream shows. He was on Modern Wisdom, which is like a super mainstream young audience. So he's gotten his ideas out there in front of new people, and that's why the stuff we do, man, is just so important. It's like, how do we create emotion and awareness with other people? And it looks like these small, like, smart things showing up in different places and creating that emotional connection.
I think with him is he just thinks so differently to everybody else. Like,
yeah,
I love the way that he looks at a situation and takes a completely different take on it. That's what I like about him. But he's got some brilliant. I can't think of any of the examples of that he's done now as well. I've listened to loads of his clips, loads of podcasts with him on.
The one that I always associate back with him is when they talk about the congestion on the elevators. So they said, like, we could invest a ton of money into redoing our whole elevator system because all the staff is complaining about how slow they are. Or we could just install mirrors on the top of the ceiling so that people distract themselves by watching themselves in the ceiling, and now they're not complaining about how long it takes anymore. So just stuff like that is just. And he talked about the Jaguar rebrand, and he was a huge fan of it. And everyone's like, "What the hell is this guy talking about? Like, this was just horrible." But he's like, "Well, yeah. I mean, this is the, like, unpacking the philosophy of like why those certain decisions are made. Is like the fact that you and I are talking about it right now is maybe a reason, why they went that route." So
yeah, Yeah, because his point was that the Jaguars are only really bought by people over a certain age, 50 odd now, and they
Yeah.
need to reach a new demographic. And the big Jaguar launch, for anyone who didn't see it, they made the big Jaguar. It looked a bit like, everybody was saying it looked like the car out of the Thunderbirds, the big pink Miss Penelope's car. And
Hmm.
and his point, I think, there was that Jaguar have made the cars look so shockingly different, and everybody was talking about either how they loved it or most people hated it, but they seemed to love it.
Hmm.
Or it was like the Marmite of rebrands. But actually, everybody everywhere was talking about it, and it got Jaguar talked about. And the point is, they're not going to release the cars that made it everybody was so shocked with. There'll be more
Yeah.
toned down versions that are more palatable, and people go, "Oh yeah, that's actually not as bad as the one that I was thinking it was going to be." So again, just a completely different take when everybody else was just hounding it and slamming it on LinkedIn, weren't they?
Yeah, that's how you get attention and association. It's like, oh, okay, well this guy said this contrarian thing. Now I'm gonna lean in a little bit, and then when he tells a story, like you actually realize like there's actual rational thought behind this that I hadn't considered before. Um, but yeah,
Behavioral
dude, I
science.
I
That's what it
know,
is.
dude, he's so fascinating. I could
Yeah.
listen to him for ages, um, but yeah, man, I appreciate you jamming on this. This was a lot of fun. You know your stuff when it comes to all things content, PR, media, and like I said, Frank introduced us. I've been watching from afar, but even as I see your presence online and now seeing it realized in person, I see nothing but up and to the right for you for everything you got going on, and to have the experience to learn from you in person is not something I take lightly, man. So I really appreciate you lending the time on. Where can people go if they want to get in touch, follow you online, learn more about Prohibition, and stay in touch with you guys?
Okay, cool. Well, thank you. Such a kind thing to say, Andy. And thanks for having me on the show. Well, best place to find us is find me on. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Chris Norton #2, I believe. There's an American football player called Chris Norton, apparently, which I never knew about. But it turns out when you become quite high profile online, people find it. And then check out my podcast, Embracing Marketing Mistakes. Like we're on every podcast platform, and it's just about people making mistakes in marketing and them telling their stories. It's slightly different to your show. I'm more into hearing where people have really, what they've done wrong. That's funny. I like funny stuff. Or stuff that's I think we can all learn so much more from mistakes than we can from brilliant people that have excellent campaigns. Often the best campaigns are the ones that have gone spectacularly wrong. And I get quite a buzz out of talking to people about it. So you want to find me on LinkedIn, and or prohibitionpr.co.uk. You can find us on there as well.
Awesome. That's the pod.